When somebody is asked to think of DNA, they will almost always come up with something regarding the human body. People are simply wired to think about themselves and their makeup, and DNA is an incredibly interesting topic that not many people actually understand very well. They understand that a human is made up by combining two people's DNA, but that's generally where the understanding stops. Artificial intelligence does not have that issue, and has recently deconstructed the incredibly complex protein structures that guard our DNA. It makes sense if you don't particularly understand what that means yet, but we're going to go through all of it in this video, and break down exactly what the AI managed to do, and what it means for the human race as a whole. Artificial intelligence has made leaps and bounds in other aspects of protein science, including creating entirely new structures that may be able to be used in various drugs and medicines. This event, however, is more impressive than all of that combined. This is the story of how artificial intelligence managed to crack one of the longest-held secrets of human biology, and how it managed to unlock the complex proteins guarding our DNA. Chapter 1: The Nucleus. In order to understand just how important this concept is, you must first understand how DNA works in general, and why it was so difficult to unlock these proteins. Artificial intelligence has made leaps and bounds in biological science, and yet when it was presented with these proteins, it faltered for the longest time. It was only with the recent advent of a new algorithm, a combination of Alphafold and Rose TTA-fold, that AI was able to start cracking into what is commonly known as the heart of inheritance. The heart of inheritance is a massive complex of roughly 1,000 proteins, which helps to channel the instructions constructed by DNA to the rest of the cell. The genetic code of human beings is housed in a hollow globe-like structure called the nucleus in order to protect it. If it were not protected, it would be targeted, altered, or mutated, which commonly turns into something that you may know about: cancer. The regularities of the instructional traffic through cells are known as nuclear pore complexes, which are like incredibly complex drawbridges which monitor the way in and the way out of a cell. Every single one of these is an incredibly complex system, the largest protein structure in our bodies, and for good reason. Their job is one of the most important throughout the entire system for keeping the body and the DNA safe from harm. Although the protection from these complexes are important, it's within human nature to want to alter them. This is done for many reasons, but most specifically for different types of gene therapy, such as mRNA vaccines, CRISPR, and potentially others. There are also hotspots that are targeted by many different pathogens and diseases, though the body generally does a fairly good job at warding these off. Chapter 2: The Structure. Nuclear pore complexes, also known as NPCs in the science world, are essential for life. There's no getting around that. But what makes them so interesting is that their structure has baffled scientists for decades, as the pores create critical gates that DNA transcribers are able to slip through, while bacteria and viruses are kept out. DNA is kept within the nucleus, wrapped around what is effectively a DNA spool. Protein messengers enter into the nucleus and transcribe DNA instructions into mRNA, which is then shutted back up to the cell's protein-making organs. Every single one of these messengers has to pass by the NPCs, which creates a gargantuan margin of error. If even a couple of these messengers are stopped by the system, there could be disastrous consequences. Scientists have attempted to decode the structure for decades using biotechnology, but have had very little success. They were able to deduce, however, that the structure seemed to be primarily made of two types of proteins. The first of these builds what is effectively a scaffold within the cell, while the second builds a sort of mud to close the gap in the scaffolding and grab onto different payloads in order to move them along in a speedy fashion. As mentioned, these structures are made of more than 1,000 distinct proteins, which form roughly 30 docks for payloads to land at. NPC structures gave scientists so much trouble because they change dynamically, meaning that they shift to embrace their environment to deal with whatever comes their way. Studying them in an abstract sense was almost impossible. They are also very tightly involved with the nuclear envelope, meaning detecting it and studying the NPC by itself was also nearly impossible. Even with state-of-the-art biotechnology, scientists are only able to crack about 46% of the NPC's biological structure. They didn't even get halfway before slowing down and almost stopping completely. That, however, is when artificial intelligence was added into the mix. Chapter 3: The AI. The team in charge of the NPC project brought artificial intelligence into the mix after observing a popular method for analyzing cell structure called cryo-ET analysis. The method garnered quite a bit of attention in 2015 when it was able to resolve cellular structures down to the atomic scale. The issue with NPCs, for that matter, was that there was a clear lack of resolution from previous datasets. Put more plainly, there was very little data that actually detailed them in their entirety, and gathering new data the old-fashioned way was incredibly expensive. After utilizing an altered form of cryo-ET analysis, however, they were able to produce a new dataset which was approximately 5 times larger than the one they had been using. They also began to use a new computing method to analyze the data, because the old one was outdated and borderline archaic. The newly drawn maps allowed the team, for the first time, to clearly distinguish between a constricted state and a relaxed state of the nuclear envelope. They then combined 2 previously known algorithms, being Alphafold and Rose TTA-fold, to predict a comprehensive set of new models for the NPC proteins. They were effectively trying to brute force a guess at how these proteins actually worked, and hoped to hit the mark via repetition and quantity of guesses. Modeling the NPCs, however, was incredibly difficult. The overall traffic flowing in and out of these structures necessitates a massive docking system, allowing loading and unloading of payloads and instructions. This is great for the body, but terrible for the poor researchers that have to document every single one of these pathways in order to understand the cell. The team utilized their models in order to map anchor points of protein linkers to the main NPC tunnel. Further modeling built off of this and essentially built a version of Google Maps, all focused around how the linkers connected and officiated travel. Each pathway helped to maintain the NPC structure, and the scientists likened it to a very well-maintained shipyard. All of the docks can be chaotic, but as long as everything is maintained, everything works perfectly. Chapter 4: The Heart of Inheritance. The Heart of Inheritance was a beast that had to be tamed, and this team managed to do it handily with the help of artificial intelligence. This is how AI should be viewed by the world. Rather than something meant to take jobs and replace them, it should be viewed as an asset that can assist people with their pre-existing jobs, allowing a furthering of the total knowledge of humanity. Beck, one of the scientists working on the project, had this to say: "This work exemplifies how in the future, structural biology will embrace cell biology to create atomic models of ever larger assemblies of molecules that perform different functions in different parts of the cell. This revolution is already marching forwards at a steady pace." Dr. Hao Wu at Harvard Medical School combined microscopy imaging software with the Alphafold algorithm in order to solve part of the NPC structure using the eggs of African clawed frog, which is often used in biochemical research due to the ease of inspecting its cells. AI isn't a savior to the world or to science as a whole, however. Many have pointed out that it presents just as many problems as it solves. Dr. Thomas Schwartz at MIT has stated that NPCs are a dynamic system and a part of a living creature, meaning it changes depending on its status. Then they are happily nestled into the nuclear envelope. The pathways are made easier to observe than when the NPC is yanked away and placed under a microscope to study. Schwartz has stated, "We can now think of building a complete dynamic model of the NPC and simulate nuclear transport in atomic detail." And this is true. Now that the NPC is completely mapped out and understood, a dynamically changing model could be made at a much larger scale to allow scientists to study, understand, and further diversify their research into the subject. And AI isn't slowing down whatsoever in its quest to dominate the protein world. Different forms of artificial intelligence are being used very widely in order to create models, study cell structures, and overall influence how scientific progress is made. Artificial intelligence is some of the most polarizing technology in the world, and it's incredibly important that it is used carefully and responsibly. The future made out by science fiction movies is highly unlikely, but human beings still shouldn't fully rely on AI for things that can be done with human touch. AI should instead be used as a tool in research and development, like it was used in this case. Humans had already been attempting to work out this project for several decades, and had only gotten a measly halfway through the research process. When AI got involved, however, things sped up rapidly, and the scientists were very quickly presented with a model that they believed would take them 10 more years to develop. Artificial intelligence is a beautiful tool, with many complex applications that are important to the modern world. It should continue to be used responsibly and scientifically, and perhaps eventually we'll have an even better understanding of how the human body works. Thanks so much for watching. If you like this video, make sure to subscribe and hit that like button, so we know you want to see more content relating to artificial intelligence. AI is always growing, so it's very likely we'll see new developments even within the next couple of months. Make sure to hit that bell for upload notifications, and we'll see you in the next one.